I wish you guys the best with your Yum Yum podcast.
Yum, yum.
Hi, Ryan.
Hello, Rachel.
How are you?
I am feeling rewarded. How about yourself?
Oh, what are you feeling rewarded for?
Did you watch this episode of Killjoys? This is like a little treat. Not a little treat, a big present just for us. Just for us.
Because of so much pre?
Oh, yes, of course. You got so much of the stuff you wanted, and I got to see him with hair. These are the simple desires, but yet we got them in this episode, so I'm feeling rewarded. How about yourself?
Oh.
How are you feeling?
I am feeling very satisfied. Very satisfied. I'm not looking forward to having to explain Yum Yum yet again. If you want to hear me suffer through even more explanations and trying to do different variants of this explanation, hit up the Patreon.
I thought you were going to say, check out the 5+ years of material we have here, where you've done it hundreds of times. We release our episodes on Killjoys as well as reactions in full, unedited, nice and early on our Patreon. And a new series is out right now, Rachel, something that we're also talking about on the main feed. But what is that?
That would be the mouthful that is Star Trek: Starfleet Academy, which is the new Star Trek show set in the Academy. It's finally come out. It's a show that as an idea has existed for decades, and now it exists in substance, and we watched it, and we made our friend Bartek also watch it, and he is joining us for those discussions so that we get a fresh pair of eyes.
We are a husband and wife team who loves to sit down and watch episodes of science fiction television. And so our podcast is a way to be able not to just do that, but be able to discuss sci-fi television. Currently, we are going through Killjoys. I am rewatching the show for the first ever time. And Rachel, this is your first ever time seeing Killjoys.
It is.
We do our own summaries for the episodes, and I thought that for this one, I keep it extra short and extra sweet.
Oh.
The Lion, the Witch, and the Warlord is about finally. Meanwhile, other things happen too, but who cares? I jest, of course. We care so much, but we were rewarded with more preamble.
I hope the audience heard that death stare.
Yum Yum, as you love to describe, is a moment from Star Trek Discovery. And what about it was so special, and how does it connect with our viewing experience of Killjoys?
It was beautifully ridiculous, out of place, yet right where it belongs. It's a line of dialogue that just took our breaths away for all of the wrong reasons. And you were like, that's it. That's the name of the pod.
It's in the season 2 finale. The shit is hitting the fan. Our heroes are scrambling, and 2 side characters, one of which we barely know their name, the woman who gets to say yum yum. They're after the villain. They're going to take the villain down. And when asked, would you like to hurt this person? This character licked their lips, threw their hair back, and said yum yum. And it was funny. And Killjoys is a series that's funny. And that's what I meant when I said, how does the yum yum of that relate to this?
The yum yum to all of our discussions and in different forms that respect the show itself and reflect the show itself. So when we talk about Killjoys, we talk about the humor, be it a genuine chuckle. You can see if it's a real laugh out loud moment by watching those reactions. And so each episode we pick our yum yum laugh.
This episode was very explosive, lots of action, lots of sensuality, romance, intrigue, and humor. What was your yum yum laugh of this episode?
Let the answer be my dick. Is there any competition?
Oh, I thought you were just saying that to me.
No!
No, I remember this line, of course I do. I said during our reaction that they should play it at my funeral. I loved that line. Johnny just firing that out. For me, it's a Pre moment. It's when Pre and Lachlan kiss passionately, then break off and aim guns at each other. They play the romantic music that swelled at the season 2 premiere when Dutch and Davin kissed in his fantasy of escaping. And this season's been really good at bringing back little musical cues that were just for throwaway moments last season and using them for similar gags in this season, but in a new way. And I just want to appreciate that technical thing that they're doing in this season when it comes to the score of the show itself.
There is a lot to appreciate about this episode. I really enjoyed it overall, and I felt like it hit the mark pretty much all of the time.
It didn't hit one spot, though.
What?
The nuts.
No. No nut shot this episode. How many bitches did we get, though?
It's been a dozen episodes since someone got kicked in the balls. And you're trying to be brave, but I can see the tears forming in your eyes at the fact that it hasn't happened.
Well, I was trying to skip it because the disappointment is becoming heavy.
Killjoys has an interesting writing quirk, which is every episode practically involves the word bitch in some way. And we have a contentious one this time. 3 bitches. Technically 2. I want to get your opinions. Because one of the lines is, I could smell your bitchery from here. And I want to get your perspective on what that lines up. That's also just not a word. So what would you say about that?
You have stuck to bitch or bitches being the only ones.
Or ones where it's like a hybrid word, but bitching is not the one I include. But how does bitchery?
I feel like bitching and bitchery are closer than bitchery and bitch.
So you're saying 2. I'm saying 2 as well. Guess what? It was technically 4 because in the previously on, they included a Dutch dropping of a bitch. One of the first lines you actually hear if you boot this episode up is a previous bitch, but I'm not including that either. But I thought the die-hard Killjoys bitch fans out there would like me to acknowledge that a previously on did include a bitch in there.
At the top of these episodes, we like to acknowledge the writer and the director of said episode to sometimes give a little bit of context, give a little bit of a prod to discuss the quality of the writing and the direction and how they work for this specific episode. And today we have 2 returning names, returning faces to the Killjoys universe. The writer just seems to be like he's a staff writer. This is his first credited episode, written by, but he was a story editor for all of last season and continues to be credited throughout.
Julian Doucette, who we have talked about previously, because he did I guess, get lumped with the writing of the episode Schooled last season, which was the one in which no one was credited as a writer, but every other writing-esque credit, story by, teleplay by, concept by, it was circling around his name more than anyone else's, so we just had to say it was him. But in terms of actually getting a full writing credit, someone who's been a story editor, they have their finger on the pulse of what the story is and what the characters are like and the themes, the tone of the show. This is his first time getting a full moment in the spotlight, and I think he did a spectacular job. This actually reminds me of, I'm forgetting her name now, but the woman who was the story editor for season 1, and she did the episode where we got to hang out with Fancy Lee and get the designated asshole speech.
Yeah.
And there's something about like the story editor, the person who's here every episode, making sure that everything is lining up, getting their chance to write for the characters and using their own voice to give us something, has an extra sparkle to it, and it was definitely present here.
Yeah, I agree. And the director, Paolo Barsman's direction feels very comfortable now. And so having a writer that feels like they're very immersed in the world of Killjoys and bringing us new perspectives on old characters and, playing with the old format.
Final challenge, test the spirit.
Chains, leather, blindfolds. Do we need your safe word?
As we're already saying here, in terms of how we feel overall about this episode, this has been the best one of the season so far. I absolutely was head over heels. Each moment was engaging. Everything just came together. We have so many things happening in this episode, and yet it didn't feel overwhelming. Yet it didn't feel like it was bursting at the seams. Everything had their moment to breathe. Everything had their moment to be important without overshadowing the other elements of the story. And when we say, oh, this is about Pre, yes, that is a huge part of it, but it's as equal as it is with other things of the episode. It's something we want from the show, so it stands out all the more. But to give credit where it's due, the other things do hold up.
Oh, yeah, it's not like, this is the episode with Pre and other things happen, but really you just want more of the Pre stuff. It does, It's a real testament to the writer that it doesn't feel that way when we go back to Davin. It's not like, fuck off, Davin, I don't want you here. It's like, no, I want to see this. I'm enjoying this. Explore the character of Garrett more, please. It's also a testament to how the show is continuing to expand itself out, because it's not just always our 3 characters together, or at least 2 of them together, the way that it was a lot of season 1. We are getting scenes without them, which feels weird, but good weird.
Babylon 5 is a wonderful example of a series with an overarching narrative that knows how to utilize its ensemble cast. And then you look at something like Star Trek Discovery, in which it did not know that, and so everything always came back to the central character of Michael Burnham. And if you don't like the central character, you're fucked. And this series wisely knew, let's boost these 3 central characters up for the first season or 2, while having the joy of playing around with all of these side players, of all of these side characters. And now, because of where the story is going, you can't just keep them on the sidelines. You have to have scenes dedicated to them. And not only does it feel like you have to have them, you want them. That's the key. You want them.
They have something to offer to the show and also to the characters. Like, that's a massive part of why this episode is so Pre-heavy, is that he potentially has something that will keep Johnny safe and help build Dutch an army.
This came out in the 2010s. This show is now over 10 years old. And looking at what the landscape of sci-fi shows were like, and ensemble science fiction shows were like, I feel like some of the big hitters, Star Trek and The Expanse, for example, when they utilized their ensemble, it was often in either clunky ways like in Star Trek Discovery where they're trying super hard and it doesn't come together, or like The Expanse, you have this big cast but all of their stories are so segmented off that it feels like a special treat when they actually connect and meet each other in person.
The whole series is building up, whole season is building up to the convergence of everything.
And Killjoys exists in this weird middle ground where all of these side characters are apart and in the same environment as the mains, but also we're seeing that change start to happen too, where we have a whole like B-plot about Del Sayer being in her own little story, in her own little part of space with the villain, like the main overarching villainess.
And that's a surprising way to build out the show, but it makes sense. Because Anila herself, you don't want to reveal too much. And also, she's a crazy fucking bitch. So you would get tired of it if it's just that all of the time.
And
having Del Sayer there and why am I forgetting his name again?
Was it Gander?
And having Del Sayer and Gander there brings dimensionality to a very upfront, clear, straightforward villain.
I guess what I'm also liking as well is on both the good side and the bad side, we are getting to spend time with the powerful characters. We get to see Anila and Del Sayer play their little mind games and their little war games. But on our side, we also get scenes dedicated to Turin now, having to deal with the internal politics of the Rack, a system that is inherently broken and corrupted, but he has to play in it. He has to try and make it work in his favor.
No Team Awesome Force in sight.
They're being talked about, they're being debated about, but it's not just that. And how do you feel about just like that element of this episode where we get to spend time with the higher ups of the Rack for a change?
It feels a bit overdue. I get why it's here, why it's now, but they introduced her as an antagonistic force in the first episode. And it feels like it would have been good to see them have to interact earlier.
Banyan and Turin, because they reference this too. She's another version of him, and now she's having to play internal affairs. She isn't internal affairs, but this is now what she's being forced to do. And that's an interesting angle to play with her, where she's committing to a job that she isn't usually one to be doing because the situation here in the quad is that fucked up.
Yeah. And it's just like, well, Turing can't handle it on his own. But also, it feels like she wants to deal with it, but she also doesn't know how to deal with it.
The Rack and the Killjoys have had these rules, these mantras, this notion of, being outsiders and not pledging allegiances and having this very strict code of conduct. And one of the best things about that is seeing how those things can't be followed through or they have to be broken. And Turin is someone who's always trying to uphold that, but to get what he needs to get done, he has to argue for her to bend the rules.
Mm. And it's very...
Or see the flaws.
Yeah. But he can't be upfront with her. And Turin's been struggling a lot with the fact that this thing that he cares about, this institution that he loves and has a sense of belonging to has been corrupted. And he wants to fix it. And he can't fix it on his own. And he's trying to fix it from inside. And it's not working the way that he wants it to. And we don't know whether it can work at all.
She is him from the early seasons. When the Team Awesome Force had to solve a problem, he was an obstacle for them. He was someone that was antagonistic, and a part of his antagonism was, I'm the rules, I'm the higher-ups, I am the person who says you need to do it this way and that way. And now he is having that be the case for him. He comes with this evidence that Dulce is fine, and then it's rebuffed because, well, you see, you need to get more evidence. You need to do more work to prove your case. Now follow through on the mission. And you see him just, like, struggle with the fact that it's now being put upon him.
And it's not enough. And then we see Davin also have to deal with that. And I find that even more interesting because it changes that dynamic like the relationship that the audience has towards that footage in an interesting way.
But you have proof Dulce is alive.
We take warrants, Jacoby, not sides.
The warrant is bullshit.
Why? So he didn't kill her then? Prove he didn't kill her later.
I often find that Davin being paired with characters of the week works better for me than when it's Dutch or Johnny. Do you find the same?
Yes, but why is that?
I think because out of the three of them, Davin is the most social.
Not Johnny.
Like, Johnny is if you have a shared interest with him, but Davin is more personable, more friendly than Johnny is, even though Johnny is a warmer person.
He also knows how to put his foot down, Davin does. He knows when to say enough's enough. He knows when to pull his head in. Not all of the time. None of these characters do all of the time. That's what makes them fun to watch, is
And
to see them
realistic in a way.
Realistic in a way. You know, he has so many things that he does in this episode, yet Davin's story is in aid of all of these other stories, but he is like woven throughout the entire episode. He has to manage Zeph, for instance. Like, Zeph is needing to crack open the remnant, Klein's little mystery box. They don't know how to do it. They're trying to do all of the hardcore science stuff. And she, like us, just says, hey, Davin, you have innate magical abilities that have made plot elements move forward in the past. I need to utilize you and your body and your abilities.
Give me those nipples.
Give me your nipples. And I really enjoyed Zeph and Davin's dynamic in this episode because he's teamed up with a lot of people in this episode.
Yeah, I honestly kind of forgot that part with Zeph because I was focusing more on his time with Garrett and the dynamic that they have and the working relationship that they quickly develop as well.
But he's become a lot more mature over the course of these 3 seasons, even when thrown into obviously silly hijinks. The interactions with Zeph are very, very funny. She's doing the thing of like, take your shirt off for science. But clearly it's not just for that too. She wants to have a look at
She doesn't even put things on his chest. He unzips for her.
Mm-hmm. And then she puts them on his temples and he's like, oh, I unzipped for nothing.
Yeah, but he's like, I'm not zipping back up.
He was just like, oh, this is my role in life. And with Zeph too, it's like she wants to do all these crazy experimental things. She wants to guide him. She wants to trigger these memories, prove herself. And what I really appreciate about the writing of this episode is Zeph's story element of cracking open the remnant comes off of Davin's investigations of Dulcea. It's like, hey, how about we crack open your superpowers by making you try and find Dulcea with them? And that just happens to make it useful for Zeph, because Zeph needs him to be proactively wanting to use the superpowers, which he didn't at the beginning of the episode. But because they know Dulcea's on the loose out there, he needs to use his powers to try and track her down in any way possible.
I think it does a fairly good job with him being a chosen one, but the show not being about how he is the chosen one, which makes it feel fresh. Because it's like he has these things, but that's sort of just another tool in their arsenal. The same way that, you know, Dutch's ability to hold her breath and, you know, apparently gas teeth.
That was a weird element. I didn't care for that. But you hit upon something. Like, Dutch also has like this she's essential, she's important, she's a chosen one type thing. And these are both for him and for her key elements of their characters, and yet it doesn't feel like we're being dragged by the nose for that element of them as characters. There's more to them.
Yeah, I really like that isn't who they are, but it is important to who they are and what they do.
Because the show has a certain mentality, a certain juvenile sense, it makes these things feel less, oh, aren't we being grand and aren't we being oh so clever? Look how
the show
smart
takes them down a peg.
The show takes it down a peg. So like Davin having some new cool found ability that is an offshoot of other things they've done in the show is clever, but it's done in a very, here we go. Off we go. Same with even Zeph cracking open the remnant. It's just like, oh, I put Klein's DNA on it and it opens and it's like this little giddy thing, but it doesn't feel like, oh, what
but then she closes it again.
Yeah, but she knows how to open it. And it's like, oh, that obviously is how you should do it, but it doesn't like have this spectacle focus of like, look how Zeph was the only smart person who could do that. It was emphasized that she kind of just bumbled her way to doing it. She was just bored.
Found out.
Yeah, she was just bored and just going, nope. She was just playing with the thing and just dipped it in his blood and just dripped it and went, oh, that works.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that. I love that a lot of their achievements in this show is either through brute force or just bumbling their way through it. And it's not to say that I don't love it when they're super clever and we have a plan within plans within plans, but you need it to even out in a way.
Yeah, you want to have different types of plots, different approaches to things, and that's a part of why I find the stuff with Dulcea so interesting, is because that feels new, that feels different. Because we got to see Dulcea interact with lots of people, but she was never on the back foot, and she is with Anila, but she doesn't want to accept that truth. She still is clearly seeing them as equals in some ways, at least. Like, yeah, I'm following you, but we are both queens.
She still thinks she's human.
Thus she pulls the Warren on Johnny.
Because she needs her revenge.
She wants him there.
And she wants to know that she's still out there and still powerful.
She has to kneel. And even though she was made to physically kneel, she's not there mentally yet.
But she's being forced to be there mentally, whether it is from, the other Hullans kind of putting her down, or from the sheer force that is Anila. Anila is crazy. She's insane. She's violent, and she breaks her toys when she's sick of them. And even though that is a line that is directly said, it is one that you can feel all over the interactions she has with Dulcea of, this is a temporary thing for now, but
You're
Dulcea's trying
around as long as you benefit me.
as long as you entertain me.
Mm-hmm.
And what does that entertainment look like, and how does Dulcea react to that is what makes that story so amazing, because Dulcea she's physically less human than she has ever been, but she's been but it's the most human we've ever seen her.
That was something that I was trying to figure out how to say that kind of thing of, as a human, she stripped herself of her humanity. And now that she is Helen, that is what she's clinging to.
Also, like, a part of the wheeling and dealing with Dulcea is not just, oh, I can manipulate. She also has to learn how the Hullen ways work so that she can then rig them in her favor. Like, she wants to know about how the technology works.
Yeah, and Neil is just like, oh, you sweet summer child.
We haven't called them that in a long time. I guess that's what you could call it.
So simple, you and your human brain.
What's the point of eternal life if you can't remember all you've lived? Sounds like a living data cloud or biocomputer.
Poor bunny.
Your mind is still so adorably human. Don't worry, that will fade.
I like that one of the story elements that we get at the beginning of this episode is we get to see all of the Killjoys again at the bar. We're having a grand old time. It reminds you...
Because it's the Black Warrant. But
Exactly.
It's not meant to be that. It's not for that. It's because Johnny's become a level 5 and Dutch was rank blocking him.
But I do think, like, the Black Warrant thing, yes, in terms of, like, the physical story's logic, it isn't that. But in terms of, like, the actual writing, it is very much on purposely mirroring when we first had a Black Warrant. And it's basically the same situation. But in this time round, it actually is a Black Warrant on someone we care about, on a character we know, on Johnny. But he became a level 5. Did you think that was ever going to happen?
No, I thought Dutch was going to successfully block that forever. I thought that the rack was going to fall before Johnny became a 5.
Did you think she was blocking him before this? Was that something in your mind? Or once when the episode said it, you're like, oh, that makes sense?
No, I always thought that was something that she was doing. Because we saw how competent Johnny was. And the fact that he was lower than Davin felt wrong.
Yes.
It felt wrong.
There was a whole episode about that. And it definitely does recontextualize that conversation from the Harvest, in which she made him feel better about what his rank is and that it doesn't really matter. Because that gets used again in this episode. It's done in a similar way. There's a lot of echoes back to season 1 in this episode, honestly.
Yeah, and that idea of we've come so far and yet we haven't, because they are still who they are. But they are more aware of the danger that they're in.
We have been demanding and asking and pleading for the show to acknowledge that Johnny left the quad at the end of the last season, not just because he feels bad about Potter's death, but because he shot and presumably killed Dulcea. And I want to say that although we had these harsh critiques about how they haven't mentioned it, this episode, it wins me over. Because the story is about that. Johnny getting this warrant on his head and then them having to run off and find aid for that and find a loophole and do all of this stuff. It's because Johnny shot Dulcea. And it is confirmed that nobody knew that except for the two of them. And so that gives a lot of leeway to the fact that in the previous episodes there was no discussion about it. I do find it still a bit curious that, the one of the 9 and kind of the head of the 9 fell off the map, and there was not much public discussion, especially because she was directly interacting with Old Town right before it happened.
She was, but it also makes sense with the way that we saw that the 9 work and the idea of them closing ranks and hiding this, because we don't know how much they know, because it was that the leader of each of the 9 families knows what's coming, that the Hullen are about to arrive, but that knowledge isn't shared. So the idea of them wanting to hide this assassination from the public to maintain a calmer appearance makes sense, because it's they're not trying to agitate Westerly.
To deal with Johnny's warrant on his head, they have to seek refuge with some outlaws. And who better to help them find some outlaws that can give them refuge
but our ex-warlord, Prima Dez.
Not his real name. Do you think that's a warlord's name? I love that they called that out, by the way. That they're just Prima Dez. Does that sound like a warlord's name to you? And it's no? You got me there, Prima. It doesn't. Thanks, Varric.
That does sound more like a warlord name, doesn't it? Pre with long hair. I am okay with in small doses. But bald Pre is best Pre. Getting Pre's romantic messiness, I really enjoyed. The thing that relates to that I didn't like is that they have a couple of lines where it's clear that him and Lachlan fucked. And then the next scene is just it's a lot of kissing. And it's fuck off, Pre.
Oh, he's just being coy. He's being a little coy guy.
But it's just why? You were just being upfront with how you guys just had a bunch of sex. Why are you oh no, we were just kissing and then...
That's Pre, though. He's a little bit of a sultry guy like that, even with Garrett at the beginning, where he's just I'm training him. He just loves being a little euphemistic guy.
He does, but it struck me as... It felt more like Sci-Fi not being wanting to walk it back a little and not be so directly gay sex happened off screen in this episode. No, deal with it.
I disagree. This episode's too gay for me to even have that perspective. They brought...
That's fair.
Oh, man. They brought so many things back, like the warlord stuff. It was a funny line. Oh, you a warlord? How are you a warlord? And then we actually get an explanation on that. And how he gave it up is actually what this episode's about, rather than why he was a warlord.
No, but it's why he gave it up. We get how very quickly it was at this raid, jumped a ship, headed to Westerly, that Varric died that day. But we don't understand why Pre's using that language and why he decided to leave at that point. And it's a really beautiful love story of I gave you up so that you could be the best version of you.
But also with that tinge of not just nobility, but a central flaw of Pre can't get that close. There has to be a certain barrier between him and his partners, it feels. Like, that was a part of it, that, because of the way that this warrior culture works, you could not be the commander until I died, so I died and let you be that. But there was a sense of, like, you were becoming too much in love with me that you're willing to sacrifice yourself for me, and I couldn't allow that. And so I had to leave. And when you see his relationship with Garrett at the beginning of this episode, there's a lot of humor there, but even Garrett talks about, like, he just doesn't know how to figure out Pre because there is
a wall.
There's a wall there. There's something about Pre when it comes to his relationships. And guys, who thought we would be saying these words in the first season about Pre? But here we are, because the show's that wonderful and lets us have this. That Pre, there's something about him when it comes to relationships in which he can't commit fully in that way.
He uses the bar as a physical barrier between him and Dutch, and the justification of I'm on this side, you're on that side. And that's just a representation of one kind of barrier that he puts up. And I enjoy a arrogant, flawed character quite a bit. And I think Pre is one of the best examples of that when we've had in shows that we've covered for the podcast.
And in a series in which there are many characters with that exact character flaw and trait of that wonderful arrogance that you speak of. With Pre, it is there, but it's something that's like a hidden part of himself, because he dresses so loudly and he gives such wonderful pieces of wisdom, but when left to his own vices, he is very arrogant in a weird way. He's very domineering. Like, one of the things that I love too when it comes to Garrett is when he talks about Garrett, when he talks about that relationship, he almost devalues its importance because he's playing up that he's the dom of the relationship. Like, Garrett is needing to be broken in. Garrett is lesser than. Garrett is, a cuddly teddy bear, but he's mine and he's down below. But then when you hear how Garrett feels about that, it's not quite the rosy picture that Pre paints it as. Yet it's not a fucked up broken one either. It's just they clearly need to communicate with one another. That's all it is. They just need to talk.
Yeah, and it feels like they need to have the talk of what is this relationship and what do you want this to be and what does it do for you.
Are you in Pre?
Hell's if I know. Man's locked up tighter than a Niner's asshole.
Johnny forgot to mention that he murdered the Queen of the Quad. Dudes.
Garrett, he returned.
Which surprised me, and it even surprised me more that I loved it. Because he has growth. And it's like, the dumb, muscly guy comes back and is intertwined in this plot, has a burgeoning romance with a character, and is working alongside Davin and getting a lot of funny moments, but heartfelt ones too.
They see a lot of themselves in one another, Davin and Garrett. And Garrett is a character who, when we saw him last episode, that he was in last season, he was a villainous bully jerk that was just a punching bag. That's what he served. He was an asshole who we kicked and stabbed.
Yeah, but it's like, we need more allies. And Garrett's another one that we get to do that with. And, like, he's there as a person who maybe, there a bit more often. Whereas it feels like the Fremen, is that the Fremen will be back when a battle is on, But
a personal ally can be found in Garrett.
Yes. And it's nice that those two things are happening in these two plots, because a lot of this is really about the people.
Did you recognize Garrett at the start of the episode before they gave you the recap of who he was?
I thought they were just reusing the actor.
Mm.
And then I was like, oh no, it's the same as this. Oh, okay, I like this.
I was reading up on this a little bit because I was curious as to why they if there was a reason they brought him back. Season 3, we've already seen tap into this element, which is, hey, that worked. We liked that. We liked that thing from the last season. Why don't we bring it back and develop it some more? And that's what would happen with Garrett, because apparently from what I read out there, they saw the writers, the directors, all the people involved, they saw from the actor of Garrett this kind of weird romantic-y sexual vibe tension with Pri, and they said,
let's play with that.
Let's play with that. That was
I like that.
That's not something that was written in that episode. They just saw on the screen in that episode when it was him and
they folded
Pri,
it back in.
They saw something there and they said, I don't want to just see it. I want it to be it. I want it to be that. Let's do that. And here he is in this episode to fulfill this thing, which that's what I love about TV. I love this type of stuff about TV.
Room.
We always, when talking about Babylon 5, mention like, oh, it had a 5-year plan. It had like this big overarching stuff. But the real joy of that series was when it would go off of the plan and give us these wonderful additions because they saw a really good actor or wonderful dynamic or potential.
Their opportunities that they were given, as well as responding to the things that didn't work as well.
And Killjoys is demonstrating that strength of production. They saw this actor last season who was just a big muscly guy who was a jerk. And now they brought him back and he's no longer that. He's something more. If you ever go back and rewatch that episode, it'll be very weird to see it. To be like, oh, that's the guy who in season 3, he appears as a lovable hippie. They keep calling him a hippie.
Yeah.
The joke being he's such a big muscly guy, but he doesn't want to punch people.
Yep. But then he does hang that other Killjoy off the railing. There is a stark contrast between the warmth that you feel when you're in the Royal with Davin and Garrett to when we are with Dutch and Johnny on this frozen, solitary moon elsewhere in the J.
Their conflict in this episode was really good, though. It needed to happen. There's tension between the two that has been unsaid, but it needed to come out.
Truth Jack.
Yeah, Truth Jack. Will they be addicted to that for life now? I jest, but it is a thing that they said about Jack, was once you have it once, you're addicted for life. And I feel like they've had Jack a few times in this show, and they're fine, other than Potter. It was not fine for her.
Well, she had pure Jack.
She had pure Jack, that's it.
I think that would be the bullshit explanation.
That's what the writers would say. So we have a sci-fi reason for Dutch and Johnny to speak truthfully, to open up about how they feel about each other. And it was fine. Like, the story
hit as much as I wanted it to.
The story is what brings it down in that way, where they have to do these fucking little trials and tribulations to win
it's
the.
Like, that's just you needed this to happen. So it's how do we make this happen?
But what they actually do, what they actually say, the substance that we get into with the conflict between them
duologue is amazing.
It's great. It's great. It's just the stuff that made us get to there. Not so much. Like them having a little knifey fight and wearing their little revealing outfits and they're putting apart, assembling a gun and all that.
Blindfolded. That's the challenge.
It was very much, how do we fill up the time?
I do like, though, with the editing of the second trial, I felt like it did a good job at misleading you visually into thinking that Dutch was ahead of Johnny.
Even though narratively, script-wise, it would have to be the other way around.
Yeah.
But, as you said, the execution paid off.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. Like, if you execute a thing well enough, the ability of knowing where the script is going can be obfuscated greatly.
Yeah, it's like, well, yeah, Dutch is going to win that first round. That makes sense. It would feel disingenuous if Johnny beat her in a physical fight, even if it isn't like a proper, like, I'm going to beat you up fight.
So let's talk about the two opposing views on one another. How do we want to go about this? How about you tell us a bit about what Dutch is feeling about Johnny and his lot in life?
I appreciate that both of them say things that break your heart. But Dutch's statement of, I didn't want you to come back. Oof. That stung. That one cut deep. Because that is a fear that we see in Johnny, but we also understand why Dutch feels that way. She is used to people leaving. Johnny was the one person that wouldn't run. And he came back.
But he's different.
Which is something that she's not used to.
Yeah, and he's changed now. She doesn't want him to be like her. She doesn't want him to be someone who kills. That's why she blocked him from being a level 5. He's killed people in the show before, by the way. But that's the thing. Like, now it's in cold blood. Now it's different. And I think, too, like, what makes this hit all the more is we are so used to, so acclimatized to this being Dutch's standpoint on things. She fears change. She fears other people finding
control.
She wants control, but also she doesn't want people to be like her. So it's always this dissonance of, I need you to do what I need you to. I need you to do what I want, but also don't do that because I don't want you to be like me. And Johnny finally rips the Band-Aid off and says, it's not always about you. Stop making things about you. Stop making things about you worrying about everyone being like you in the end. You use me to hold you back because you know for a fact you can't hold yourself back. That's on you after a certain point. Like, I can't be your babysitter all of the time. And by the way, I can kill people, by the way. I'm an individual with my own things. I lost the person I love. And you're lecturing me that I can't be in a dark place with that. Fuck you. And it's like, I get that too, but it's not the right lesson to learn. It's not the right path to go down, but you understand it.
Yes. And that is a reflection of how lost Johnny is. And how lost Dutch is without Johnny.
And, I also like that he, even by the end of this episode, isn't feeling remorseful about having shot Del Sayer.
No. He refuses. He refuses to be remorseful.
But he does feel some level of guilt about not telling Dutch about it, sure. And then...
Not for the violence.
No, not for that. Like, their relationship, as we say, is one of, like, the core elements of the show that keeps it going. Like, it's one of the things that draws you in to Killjoys is the complexities of a platonic friendship and working relationship.
In this context.
And one that also is the morality gauge. Like, when one of them is off, the other's morality gets thrown into whack. And it's both a supremely, like nurturing and healthy relationship, and yet it's also one that's damaging and filled with codependency.
And it's interesting how much of this episode is in different ways about how we are dependent on others and connected with each other in different types of ways and for different reasons, and how you can't do life on your own. That's not fulfilling.
Because, yeah.
But that these relationships are hard to navigate.
And they're worth fighting for. The war against the Hullen is not one of just a sci-fi war, but it's a one that's a threat to these relationships that are worth keeping.
They have more ships, they have more guns, and they can turn every one of us into one of them. We can't win this, Dutch.
Then why did you come back?
I give this episode on our rating system.
It's got to be a yum, right?
Oh, of course.
We've just done nothing but complain about this episode.
They did have Johnny slightly shirtless, but not enough to tell if he's still fully hairy or if they've trimmed him.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they trimmed just up the top bit, but I don't know if they fully trimmed. But because they didn't give us a full shirtless Aaron Ashmore, it's a yum, I'm afraid. Boo-hoo. No, to be real, this is a yum yum.
Yum yum.
Cannot emphasize enough, with all of this stuff about the writing and the characterization that we could keep talking about.
The performances.
But the direction in this episode was arguably one of the best we've seen in the show so far. It was just stylish and smooth.
It was stunning in so many different ways. Top to bottom. Yum, yum.
Yum, yum.
People, thank you all so much for being here and listening along. Make sure to follow us on all those social medias and check out our reactions, because when we reacted to this episode in particular, at the end, when they said, hey, we're going to have to deal with the rack, I told Rachel, keep that in mind. That's going to be important. Because the next episode of Killjoys, the episode that's halfway through the show, is called Attack the Rack.
I thought it was going to be Off the Rack.
It's Attack the Rack.
Attack the Rack.
That's next episode. What do you think's going to be happening in Attack the Rack?
I think they're going to attack the rack.
How so? How so?
I don't know. I look forward to finding out.
You have no other thoughts on what could be happening since we're here now? No?
I'll give it some thought, and I'll do some predictions at the start of our next reaction. But I want to thank all of the listeners, especially those who have stuck around now that the outro is clearly beginning. An extra special thank you to the patrons who have made it this far. If you are not a extra special yumling with that secret access to the huge back catalog that we have over on Patreon, we really think that it's worth your time and worth your money.
I'd like to thank all of the people out there listening. It means very much to us. And if you do have the means to support the podcast, it is greatly appreciated. We do have a huge back catalog, a community Discord, and everything comes out early. And those reactions are fully unedited. You get to hear the children that run behind the place we live and ride their skateboards around. You can hear that. You don't get to see that on the YouTube. You don't get to hear that on the YouTube cut of things. We are on all of the podcasting sites, yumyumpod or yumyumpodcast, as well as all of those social medias. If you can rate and review the podcast, that would be awesome. Rachel, how can people contact us in other ways if they want to be more direct?
Well, we don't have a phone number, just an email, yumyumpod@gmail.com.
And if you whisper on the wind, yum yum, we'll feel it in our hearts. We are covering as well at this moment in time the Starfleet Academy show as stated at the top. If that is of interest for you, please listen to that. We have our friend Bartek who's new to Star Trek. He's not seen anything outside of this and Into Darkness for some reason. He's never seen an episode outside of Starfleet Academy. So if you want to hear someone with fresh takes on Star Trek while us old-timers are grinding our teeth at San Francisco being played in slow dramatic music, then head on over to our Yum Yum Trek episodes. But until next time, let's ponder this, Rachel. I'm in a pondering mood with this season as we are about to hit the halfway point of Killjoys. A lot has already transpired.
Yes.
What do you think? And we even got told by Aaron Ashmore himself. He told us that things were going to get crazy.
Ooh.
And we're already getting there.
Yeah.
But
Anil is pretty crazy.
What's a crazy thing that you think could happen in the future of this show? Just big scale. What's a crazy thing you think could happen?
I mentioned this, I think, in our reaction. It's not too crazy, but I feel like Dutch is going to have to pretend to be a kneeler at some point. Which I think is going to be crazy fun.
They do a parent trap. They switch places, and Dennis Quaid has to figure out which one's his daughter.
What other crazy things could... It feels like they could go anywhere. But I think the craziest thing will be if Anil is not the big bad of the whole show and there's somebody even more than she is.
I have talked about the threat of the lady.
Yeah.
And you've been dismissive of if Anila was the lady.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that would make sense. That feels right, weirdly enough.
Of which? That she's the lady?
That she's not.
You have been very dismissive of that since the lady was brought up. You're
yeah,
like, nah,
because I feel like they would have been calling her the lady more.
My big crazy prediction, even though I know where the show goes,
what are you doing predictions?
Is we get a puppet episode.
Oh, a musical episode.
And don't forget the cartoon episode of Farscape.
Bye.